Hey everybody, this is Dave Knowles, the founder of TopBuilder. Thanks for attending our webinar today. This is our episode 16 of our webinar series, and this topic is on preparing your construction business to sell or for sale. If you've been to any of our webinars before, it's the same format that we typically follow. We are recording the meeting, the webinar. It's over GoToWebinar. We will email out the recording tomorrow, and we'll also send you the PowerPoint slides. There'll be 2 PowerPoint decks that go with this webinar. And if you have any questions for us, please type them into the chat panel, and there may be actually an extra question panel on here, and you can type in your questions there. At the end of the webinar, we'll spend a little bit of time going through the questions and hopefully getting you the answers you need. But thanks again for attending. We've got a really good audience here today, and we're excited to deliver this topic to you. Okay, so again, we follow a very specific format for our webinars. We talked a little bit at the beginning about the webinar series and any updates related to what's going on with our webinars. We're going to cover a little bit of background on the topic and why it's important, and why, well, you're already interested, but why could this be important to your construction business? And we are going to do a poll question today. I've got a quick poll question for you. And then we're going to introduce our guest today, Conor Chamberlain, with Sound Business Consulting. He's going to be delivering most of the content today. And then we'll wrap up with questions and answers and then next steps. Okay. So the webinar series update. If you've attended our webinars in the past, these typically happen every Thursday at 1 o'clock Central Time to keep it consistent. We're going to try to keep it to 35 to 45 minutes. And our webinars are really focused on education and best practices and trying to share industry expertise with you as construction companies. And that's exactly what we're doing here today by bringing in Conor as an expert in construction. And then for our next webinar, what we're trying to prepare for you is a topic on how to be number one, but also stay number one on every general contractor's bid list. We're finding that this is a very important topic for a lot of our contractors, staying competitive, staying, on the top of the bid list for all of their customers. Okay, and again, we're recording this and we'll send you the recording. If you want to see any of our past webinars or future webinars, please go to topbuildersolutions.com/webinars. Okay, so why is this topic important? As you guys know, we talk to a lot of construction companies every year. We talk to roughly 1,000 construction companies every year, and this is a very hot topic for many of the companies we talk to and many companies in the construction industry. Another reason why this topic is so important for construction companies is construction companies are a little different. It takes a little bit of extra time for a lot of these construction companies to get ready to sell or transition their company to somebody else. The information requirements are a little bit different for a construction company versus a traditional company. Lots of information and information on your customers, your bids. There's a lot of information that a potential buyer will ask for. And that information is very unique to construction, of course. And I don't want to steal Conor's thunder here, and this is his data, but there's challenges in selling a construction company. Those challenges are unique to construction. Not very many of them are sold, and then when they do sell, they're not sold for very much. And TopBuilder and our guest Conor can help you with that, because we both have a lot of experience in this area. So that's why we're presenting this webinar topic today. We hope it's useful. It is a bit different from our traditional webinars, but nonetheless, it's very important, probably more important actually than most of our webinars. Okay, so we're going to jump into a poll question really quickly. This is a simple one. It will not take very long, so I'll throw it up there. I'll get your feedback. We'll collect the results. I'll tell you what the results are, and then we'll introduce Conor. Okay, so the poll question is, are you planning to sell your construction company in the next, and then there's multiple choice options there. So I have launched the the poll, and I'll just wait for you guys to answer the question. So please get in there and answer the questions, and I'll come back and give you the results. This is interesting. Give you about 5 more seconds, and then we'll close the poll. Okay, results are in. So the results are 100% of you are looking to sell your business in the next 10 years. That's a very round number, obviously, and that's interesting. So we did say at the beginning here that it does take longer to prepare construction companies for sale, and that's reflective of that in these poll results. So that's pretty cool. All right, so let's go ahead and introduce Conor. This is Conor Chamberlain. He's the I guess you're the president of Sound Business Consulting. Conor has been a partner of TopBuilders for a while. We have joint customers. He helps our customers with his consulting practice. And Conor was born into construction, working for his dad's construction company. He obviously has a lot of experience there. He's owned and operated construction-based marketing and advertising firms for a while, and recently grew sales for a client from, well, 400K to 6 million, which is tremendous. And he travels and works with a lot of companies, both general and specialty contractors, helping their owners establish independence from the day-to-day operations, which is a big part of preparing your business for sale. Okay, so I am going to turn it over to Conor, and you're going to have to bear with me a second because I got to do a little transfer here. I'm going to make Conor the presenter. And Conor, you are now the presenter. Can you?
Right on. Thanks, Dave. Thanks for having me. Let me get the screen share here going. All right. Are you guys seeing this? Are you seeing the screen, Dave?
We are. Thank you.
Okay, great. Perfect. Okay. So I want to start off with a question, which is, how do you define wealthy? And this is absolutely going to lead into the topic at hand. When a poll was done of construction companies, both general and specialty, the most common answer was that I can do whatever I want, whenever I want. I define that differently than you. Everybody's going to have their own definition. Maybe that's you want 10 homes in 10 different countries. Maybe you want just $100,000 in income each year and a fishing license. Everyone's going to have their own definition. For me, I would absolutely love to be able to fly private, even if it was just small planes. I would love to never have to go to an airport again. So everybody's got their own definition. If you've got some pen and paper near you, you might write yours down. It's a really good question to think about. Okay, so I want to give you your takeaways from today. The first thing, actually that's the second thing. Here we go. Which numbers to monitor for growth? We're going to talk about some outside the box thinking as it pertains to security. And then lastly, the keys to maximizing the sale value of your business. So at the end, you should have some insight into all three of these topics that you can carry with you into your day-to-day. All right, so we'll start with growth. There's a lot of different types of growth. There's employee growth, there's growth in locations, there's regional growth. Today, we're going to talk about revenue growth, we're going to talk about infrastructure growth, and we're going to talk about profit. On the security side, there again are lots of different types of security. You can establish security through insurance, you can have contractual security. We're going to talk about diversified security, and more specifically, revenue sources, your revenue types, and then diversifying your staff. We'll start with growth. I like to look at growth and security through silos. This visual makes a lot of sense. So we're going to start with customers. And this is a formula that flows all the way through to the end here. So the first part of customers is leads. What kind of leads does your company work with? How good are those leads? How likely are they to buy? And then the second part of that is conversion. How effective is your company at converting those leads into actual sale opportunities? So you have leads times conversion is going to give you your customers. Okay, from there, we go to revenue. So we have your average sale price, like it sounds, just the average value of each transaction. And then we have frequency. How frequently are those transactions happening over the course of a year? So that customer that you created from leads and conversion now has an average sale price times a frequency, and that gives you your revenue. Once we get to that revenue, then we've got to subtract our costs out. And there's two types of costs. Cost of goods sold, those are your costs that are directly related to the job, and then your operating costs. So your accounting team is not specific to one job or another in most circumstances. So you'll treat those separately. So your revenue is now, you have your cost of goods sold removed from that, less your operating cost, and that gives you your profit. So a really important thing to understand is that in terms of how you affect profit, everything falls into one of these 6 silos. And what's critical is that these are measured. You may have heard the acronym KPI. I'm going to write that down here. KPIs is key performance indicators. And understanding which numbers within these silos to monitor is how you reach better profit. One of the reasons I really encourage my clients to work with TopBuilder is the software is phenomenal at helping you manage KPIs at the touch of a button, which is the way you need to be in this fast-moving business world we're all in. Okay, from here, we're going to talk a little bit about security. There's, again, like I said, a lot of different types of security. The first one we mentioned was revenue types. So you have primary service. That's what your business does. An example might be a construction company that specializes in building pharmaceutical research facilities. That primary service is going to have secondary services that work well with that. So an example would be if you're already working in pharmaceutical, tech might make a lot of sense as a secondary service. Both of those industries use clean room technology. Both of them have high security needs, and both of them have typically access to a lot of investor cash. So that may be a really good secondary service to take advantage of. I'll give you a little trick here that can really help you identify the proper secondary services for your business, and that's your cost of goods sold. We talked about that on the last slide. Cost of goods sold is kind of your canary in the mine shaft rather, in terms of giving you information about where you should point your business. So if that primary service is pharmaceutical and you're building clean rooms, it's likely you have some expensive HVAC units. They work differently than your standard HVAC. Looking at your cost of goods sold, you're going to see that. Now let's say that HVAC unit is high margin. Well, then we want to circle that and say, what are the other businesses we can use that in? We've already got the knowledge to install these things. How can we get more customers to do that? And that's where tech would come in. So when you're looking for those secondary services, make sure you look at your cost of goods sold. It can really point you in the right direction. Okay, revenue sources. Existing relationships. We've got outbound marketing and referral sources. Your existing relationships are critical, never more so in construction. Construction is still a handshake business in a lot of examples. Your ability to maintain those relationships and have that turn into repeat business is critical to just about every construction company I've ever worked with. Outbound marketing is one of the least utilized ways of affecting your revenue that needs to be adopted by the construction industry. The bigger companies do it really well. It's the small to medium-sized businesses that have some trouble here. Outbound marketing can be a lot of things, and on the next slide, we're going to go into some details about that. But in general, what is your company doing to reach out and obtain business that you don't know about? That's your outbound marketing. Lastly is referral sources. I mentioned how great the relationships are in construction. It's common to want to just let that relationship sit there for fear of disrupting it. People in construction are surprisingly willing to help. You just have to ask for it. And the other part of that is not just the business owner that's asking for those referrals. Is that part of your culture? What is the rest of your team seeking referrals? And again, we'll talk about this a little bit more in the next slide, but these are the silos you want to pay attention to on revenue sources. Lastly is staff. So you have in-house staff or full-time staff, and then you have outsourced staff. In-house staff is payroll taxes. It is insurance. It's paid days off. It's expensive, but when you have an in-house person that's good and you can utilize all year long, it is absolutely cost effective. Understanding the ebbs and flows of your business. What's high time? Do you really peak in the summer? Does the rainy season affect when you're profitable? Understanding how that works over the course of a year can be an excellent guide in terms of understanding what your staff should look like. If you have somebody that's critical and you've got work for them 10 months out of the year, probably makes sense to find something for them to do those 2 months to maintain that in-house employee. However, if it's the opposite, you only really need this person for 3 months of high time, and you're struggling to find things for them to do, you want to have that be an outsourced person. So the security there isn't just when times are good, but when the economy takes a downturn, when material costs go through the roof and you're stretched to make margin. Managing your staff is an excellent way to control your expenses. So these silos can really be instrumental in helping you maintain margin in good times and in bad. Okay, I mentioned we would talk about the relationship factor with business owners. What you're seeing right here is the most common way we see business transacting. The relationships are almost exclusively with the owner. Once that business is earned, then that gets kicked down to the employees. They manage that business. Out comes the results, and that's where the relationship stops. And then it's up to the owner to go find that business, to reinvent it, or to go find new business. And this cycle goes over and over and over. The problem with this setup, Dave mentioned in the beginning, only 20% of construction businesses sell, and the ones that do, a lot of those sell for 1x. That's because when somebody's buying this business, they're going to have to come in and basically take over for the owner. They can't manage it from a distance because the relationships have to be managed by the owner. So you see this kind of business sell for 1x, and oftentimes they're asking the owners to stay on for 2 to 3 years to help transition those relationships. When you have a business that looks more like this, where the owner acts more as a chairman, where they absolutely are involved in the critical decisions, but the business in terms of day-to-day operations is able to function independently of the owner. And where that's really important is making sure you can create new business without the owner's direct involvement. When somebody sees a business like this, we see these sell between 3x and 7x, and usually anywhere from 0 to 6 months in terms of a contract with the owner. The thing to pay attention to here is when you do it this way, the 2 to 3 years you're spending working for the company you just sold, the person or entity that bought it from you is using those 2 to 3 years to turn it into this, which means they kept between 2x and 6x of the value because it wasn't set up correctly. In the poll, it said 10 years is when everybody's on this call is expecting to sell their business. That is fantastic, because 10 years is enough time to convert your structure to a business where the owner can remove themselves. This is also not just critical to sell the business. There's a quality of life here. Let's say we optimize your business in 5 years to this structure. You've got 5 years of having some true independence from the business while you're still making a lot of cash at the same time. So establishing this structure is really important. The other thing I mentioned on the slide previously was marketing. I want to give you some examples here of what diversified marketing looks like. We talked about repeat clients. This is really important. What are the efforts you're making to reach clients that have already done business with you? When a job finishes is it a thank you, give us a call when you need something? Or are you actively reaching out to that client, inviting them to Christmas parties, making sure that they feel like they're still a part of the culture of your company? Make sure that they know that you want to continue doing business with them. Employee referrals. This is a big one. Very few companies incentivize employee referrals. You pay an employee a $1,000 bonus, a $2,000 bonus, turns into a client, not just that one job, but repeat business. You get 4 or 5 jobs over a 10-year period from a client that you got that you had no idea existed, and all it cost you was a $1,000 bonus to an employee. That's a huge get. It's incredibly cost effective, and by the way, those bonuses go a long way in terms of building more company culture that makes people want to continue working for you. Owner relationships. Absolutely don't want to get rid of the owner's involvement. It's really more about making sure the owner is involved in the blue chip meetings. Those clients that are just border on invaluable. Those are the lunches and dinners that the owner should be having with those types of clients, rather than every single person who represents, potential revenue. Networking events. I can't tell you how many networking events I've been to where I watch construction companies bring some of their staff, and their staff huddles around in a corner and talks to each other, enjoying some beer, wine, and appetizers. They're not actively working to get new business. And the reason is because there's no meeting the next day to evaluate the effectiveness of the networking event. There's no software being used where notes are entered, and follow-up meetings are insisted by management. So using, I mentioned TopBuilder's benefits just a second ago. This is another area that I have successfully set clients up with TopBuilder. Using a networking event and then monitoring the results. You can actually have ROI on a networking event. We spent $1,000 to send our team. We got 10 bid opportunities out of it. We closed 2, which netted us X amount of revenue. You really need to have that kind of information to make networking events to where they're benefiting your company rather than just paying for professional visiting. Lastly, I'll mention email marketing. A lot of people think of products when you hear email marketing, right? Somebody's selling something, it's a one-time transaction. That's what we all get in our inboxes. You can email marketing your existing customers. You can email lead lists. Email marketing is a way of making sure that the potential buyers of your service are aware that you are an expert in the industry. You are shaping yourself as someone who knows the ins and outs of everything that's important to them. And that way, when a bid does come up, you're the first person they think of. That's where the phone call gets made. So seeing an entire marketing picture like this in your business and having it run by your staff rather than you is a critical piece to separating yourself and getting a business ready to sell. Okay, I think most people have seen a sales funnel before, where you have efforts at the beginning with marketing, that sale is closed, operations manages the business, customer comes out of the bottom. It's a customer experience if you look at that. What starts to make sense, we talked about the silos for growth. Check this out. Hopefully, there we go. Everything we talked about in those silos that we manage through KPIs feeds right into this process. Your leads and effectiveness. This is your marketing. Your average sale and your frequency. This is your sales effort. Cost of goods sold and operating costs have a great deal to do with how that's managed operationally. And at the bottom, you have customers. From there, those customers are being sent right back to the top once they're happy to be re-engaged with marketing to see the next job come through. We said KPIs. Again, this is where you're monitoring the effectiveness of that customer journey. You understand what's working well, you understand where the holes are, and that's how you build that business to where, again, you've got independence as a business owner, your team is managing all of this on their own, and you're getting a business ready to sell for 3x, 4x, 5x, 6x. Something I'll mention, the reason I like to work with TopBuilder is one very specific reason. Oh, let me get that. There we go. Needed the eraser. There are other CRMs out there. I've worked with a couple of them that are construction specific. TopBuilder is the only one that has marketing incorporated right into the software. Everybody else, you're going to have to buy a third-party marketing software. Some of it will sync, some of it won't, but it requires manual attention to the process. When you have marketing and sales built right into TopBuilder, you have one complete process that is super easy to manage. And what I find is that it actually happens. When it's right inside of your CRM, your team actually uses the marketing piece of it. So that's a really important thing to me when I'm working with clients. Additionally, once we have marketing and sales and we've got a closed bid, it naturally syncs right up with companies like Procore, where you're going to use that software to manage the operations of your project. Again, for me, when I see a clean handoff from that marketing and sales process, where all of the data feeds right into the operations side, this is time now spent on more critical things rather than chasing software, chasing operations. Also, when it comes time to feed this into accounting, every client I work with right now works with Sage. TopBuilder feeds right into Sage. So we've got the accounting side knocked out too. For me, you know, again, one of the reasons I was excited to come on today is because I really do think that this is the best option for my clients. Marketing is a huge piece of what we do, and it's turnkey. So just to summarize kind of things we talked about today, we talked about growth silos and security silos. Those are the things we've got to pay attention to monitor and make sure that we have growth happening. We talked about structure. We've got to make sure that the structure is in place so that the business owner can effectively remove themselves from the day-to-day operations and affect change from a 35,000-foot view. Once you pay attention to these three things and have them dialed in, your customer journey becomes something that is perfect and independent, which is what a buyer of your business wants to see. So these are the things that you need to have in place to get that done. And I would, sorry. So yeah, if at any point you'd like to discuss some of these concepts, I'm available. I'll put up my cell phone here. If you want to text me your name and email address, I'll reach out with my calendar. I'll also mention that Reese and I work very well together. So if you're interested in having a conversation about structure, about the right pathway forward, but also want to have a conversation about TopBuilder, about how that can work in your favor, we can schedule some time for the three of us to talk together and make that work as well. So appreciate your time. Reach out if you have any questions, and I hope this was helpful in giving you some ways to move forward with your business. I'm going to kick this back over to Dave now.
Okay. Yeah. Can you hear me okay, Conor?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, that was fantastic, man. I learned a lot. That's really, really good information. I'm going to go back to showing my screen. Okay, yep, that's up there now. Okay, great. So real quickly, I'm going to add just one. I mean, this is for TopBuilder. This is a whole nother webinar, candidly. But there's a few other things I'm gonna add to what Conor said, and that is, you know, when it comes to somebody approaching you to buy your business or even invest in your business, they're going to want to make sure your company assets are secure, and that includes your customer data, all the information that you use to prepare your takeoffs, the actual takeoffs and the estimates, all your sales data, your quotes and proposals, contracts, you know, all the information you have about your customers and your jobs need to be secure, or that stuff can either be lost due to a technical issue, or candidly, if you're not doing the things that Conor has said, it could walk out the door. And that's a problem for a buyer. They don't want it. They're not going to take that risk. Okay, we see this every day. And then also having a CRM or some systems and tech in place will demonstrate that you have efficiencies in your processes, that you, and like Conor said, when you set up your business properly, the owner takes on a separate role or a different role, and you need things in place to help your team manage those relationships as well. It's not you as the owner necessarily, but your team, your organization needs to be managing those relationships. Even if they call into the office and just have a question or something that they want from your office and somebody answers the phone, you've got the data available to help manage that relationship across the entire organization. Another interesting thing that we see as well with construction companies is, you know, they're gonna ask for, and this kind of goes back to number one, but they're gonna ask for some very special reports from you. And these reports will not be available in accounting systems. They're not going to be available in project management systems, and they're not going to be available in your bidding software, your estimating software. They're going to be asking for very specific information about your customers, the contracts you have in place, especially if you have a repeat customer. They want to see what they're buying, and they're buying your customers. They're buying that repeat business. They're buying a solid relationship with your customers, and you need to be able to show them that in these reports. I'll go through this a little quicker here, but being able to report future growth and your sales history, but also what's really important is if you have a 10-year sale horizon, like everybody does on this call, you have a revenue target that you're trying to hit, and you need to demonstrate how you're going to get there, because you may be able to sell before that, or even when you do get there. But having a CRM that allows you to develop key performance indicators that show the buyer how you're going to get to that revenue number. You know, how many qualified bid opportunities do I need? How many of those are going to actually turn into a bid that, you know, that I'm going to submit? What are the expected conversion rates? And you do all that math, and it leads to the number of sales and you average that by number of revenue, and then you get your total revenue. So you have a predictor of how you're going to grow the sales and reach your revenue targets. But also, what's also really important, and I'm going a little bit deep here, but where are those leads and where are those bid invitations coming from? How am I going to go get them? You know, and having a place where you're tracking your referrals, the sources of your leads, making sure you're taking advantage of all those repeat customers and demonstrating that to a potential buyer is really, really important. And candidly, just reflecting the fact that you use technology to grow and manage your business is important. If a buyer comes to you and says, hey, look, you know, what tech are you using to manage your business? And you show them a whiteboard, they may, you know, turn around and leave. You need to be able to demonstrate that you are using technology and that the technology you're using is securing your data and securing your assets. Okay. And that's where Conor can help, and that's where we can help as well. So that I'm going to wrap it up, and that coincidentally, that's right on time. I do not have any questions in. Oh, let me check here. Nope, no questions in the inbox. So that either means we did a really good job or we confused you. But hopefully the former. And again, Conor provided his information to reach out to us. We've got Reese's information. Reese is TopBuilder's business development executive. Or you can go to our website and schedule a demo. Again, these slides will be sent out. The recording will be sent out. We try to get it out by noon on Friday, which is tomorrow. And then you can have that recording. If you don't get it for some reason, or the email doesn't get to you, you can always get it on our website as well. So that's fantastic. Thank you, Conor, so much. That was really, really good. And I learned a lot. I think it was really useful. And we look forward to seeing everybody on the next webinar.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah.